we are. Welcome everyone.
Fantastic.
Let me know about the volume. Hello, Ceely.
Hello, happy to be here. Hello, chat. How are you doing?
Welcome everyone. We are waiting for the start of top 64 qualifiers, winners bracket final. And then we're also casting lower bracket finals, so 2 games and 2 spots for grabs today for the mid-season tournament. And yeah, the people have been playing for 2 days. It's the final decisive battles. Hope they have the stamina on this long run.
Exactly. We have a top 4, and we will be, of course, casting the winners bracket finals. Which will take place between Lerio as well as Joe. So yeah, that is the game on the menu for us, and of course the losers bracket, we also have a top 4. So in the losers brackets, RVS 3 is playing against Nishi. So we will have the results from that, and then one more game to go after the winners bracket. But yeah, 1 golden ticket on the line to the mid-season tournament, so it's going to be very, very exciting. Yeah, should we take a look at the decks?
Yes, let's switch, and Lerio's decks should be on screen now. We see
Ready.
4 decks: Syndicate, Monsters White Frost, Guerilla's Tactics Harmony, and Ursine Ritual. Happy to see alternative to Pirates. A lot of players, if you look at the stats for day 1, we're bringing Pirates. Lerio stuck with Swoleblood. But let's start with Syndicate. It's a bounty list that is played with blood money. And this is a golden version, a Golden Nekker version, no devotion, no 10 provision cards and above. Just sticking to those City Novas and cheap crimes, and a couple of payoff cards like Executioner, as well as Ignatius Hail, 18-point body finisher. So that deck you might have seen before. There is a Cultist as well for Purify value, so in the mirror match or potentially going against Cultists, that should be good.
Yeah, definitely. The Kalkstein, I think, gets a chance to shine potentially any mirror matches or random locks that can pop out from anywhere, poisons in harmony, that sort of thing. In general, very just a value list, honestly. Has a lot of removal in terms of poisons and bounties. However, it does take a little bit of time for Syndicate to set up everything as well, combining poisons or placing a bounty as well as taking care of it. Witch Hunter Executioners are included here, of course, to make that easier. Salamandra Assassins, quite nice bronzes there for the bounty as well as the poison. And yeah, a bit of extra blue coin tempo potentially here. If you end up taking this list on blue coin, you do have Roach and Knickers there by your side for Lerio. So that's kind of nice, making this deck a little bit more flexible in terms of which coin it wants to go on, whether it will be blue or red. But moving on to White Frost for monsters. We're no strangers to this list, I would say. Plays a lot of these Wild Hunt bronzes, tries to apply maximum amount of frost here, and then, of course, utilizing longer rounds for the payoff that comes with that. Winter Queen, huge threat in round 1, can make the point gap quite nice to catch up to if you have any frost left over. And some big finishers as well. We have Caranthier Golden Child, Ternalia, lovely carryover play there for this deck, as well as Oberon King that can really shine in round 3, bringing out potential Wild Hunt riders. But yeah, powerful plays can be really scary if it goes on red coin, with the amount of points it can put on the board. And the longer the round goes on, the more frost value, which is quite nice for this deck.
Yeah, and if you allow it to build up the carryover of Frost and then just pass, then they utilize the Wild Hunt Navigators, buffing everything by the leftover or unused Frost from the previous round, so that's scary as well. And yeah, Oberon, if you find him in your deck runs some tutoring in Naglfar, in Gale, so you are not left to hope into RNG to top deck the golds. Then you have, yeah, as you said, short round, scary plays with Oberon and Carantir. Moving on to the Guerilla Tactics. Guerilla Tactics is how many archetype, like leader that means that archetype, has how many scenario, Mysteries of Locthwain, has a lot of different tags, a powerful round 1 play in Dana providing the carryover, or alternatively round 2, round 3 Dana buffing everything on the board with like a harmony proc as well. Saskia that you want to use for thinning and like a long round thinning and tempo. All the different elves, dwarfs, witchers, humans are included into this list as well. It has control in terms of poisons, not the like immediate answer, but answer nonetheless.
Yeah, I think worth noting with this deck is that it is a little bit draw dependent. You have Saskia being kind of the main card. You need to make sure you draw because she thins out the deck, and as Kung Fu said, can make all those humans, elves, dwarves come out on the board, therefore thinning your deck and allowing you to find something like Mysteries of Locthwain later. And sometimes you do see Cursed Scroll for these Harmony decks, but you could argue that going for the saber here as your stratagem is better when you draw well, because you can potentially win around very non-committally with your bronzes and by triggering extra harmonies from the saber there. So an interesting choice, but could potentially backfire in some situations where you just don't find your cards, especially Saskia, to then thin further. But really cool deck, and also love the backup plan. New card included here, very nice for Scoia'tael, offers nice flexibility as well with those creates. So it's going to be fun to see that one today in the tournament. And then we can check in on Ursine Ritual for Lerio. As Kung Fu mentioned, nice to see an alternative to the typical Golden Nekker Onslaught that has been very popular this weekend. There is a deadly combo in here, and that includes Knut as well as Sigvald. Those two can work together. Teamwork makes the dream work and really win a round for you. And in terms of that, very scary. Sometimes opponents cannot deal with that threat, and that is rough. And of course, with the resurrections that Skellige likes to use, you have Sigdrifa's Right, you have Bride of the Sea. There are ways for you to get your cards back, not to mention Fukusia. And then the potential of having Melusine carryover over 3 rounds. You can rest her, you can purify her with Peller, and there is the threat of actually playing Melusine in 3 rounds, and that is also nice carryover for a deck like this. So it's going to be fun kind of seeing Ursine Ritual again. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen this deck in action in a tournament, so really cool stuff.
Yeah, Harald Hult's now making an appearance. There is the Gramis, so even if you have control in forms of locks, you'd need to waste 1 on Gramis, otherwise everything you lock is just gonna be purified, because there is a couple of alchemy cards in Martyr Arms in the list, outside of Sigdrifa's Right and Restore as well. So yeah, this is the lineup for Lerio. Nice choice of decks. And moving on to the Joe's list, right? We see the already mentioned Onslaught Pirates making an appearance. Golden Nekker with a lot of damage cards, Tesna Mutna Sword, Curse of Corruption, Leader that deals the damage, Unicorn combo with Kyranax, and all the bronzes are also not slacking, just going into the damage from Cataclysms. Has the lock, has a nice finisher choice. If you manage to thin to Magic Compass, you can go into the White Punish with Swole Blood, you can go for Tear for the Tall Punish, or just Point Slam with Fukusha into the Axel. So many choices there.
Yes, very flexible list overall. We are no strangers to this one. So I think it's fair to move on here to the imprisonment list, which is cultists. Yeah, cultists are interesting. They have a very straightforward plan that is not always easy to execute. Your opponents could counter you by doing something to your scenario, the Eternal Eclipse. And this is why we're going with the Cursed Scroll here, of course, to be able to tutor that Eternal Eclipse early, potentially finding your Necromancy there as well. You want to put as many cultist tags as possible on the cards in your deck and in your hand. Then you trigger the chapter from the Eternal Eclipse, which will be very, very important later, infusing your cards and making them boost themselves whenever you play cultists on the board. So that is very, very difficult or important to pull off, not necessarily difficult, but it would be difficult if your scenario gets verification or something like that, which would be very sad for this particular deck, but difficult to maximize your points for sure. I think it's a fairly complicated deck, even if it has sort of a straightforward game plan, but we can expect to see this deck on Blue Coin for sure.
Yeah, it has. Afan's friends didn't really talk to him for some time, and he managed to become not just a soldier, but join the cult. Every time there is a cultist deck on the ladder in the tournament, Afan is present because he helps with the tempo, he helps with developing and triggering scenario, as well as bringing Nausicaa brigades out of the deck, so you develop multiple engines in one go, combining with your leader, and leader offers your control. So moving to the next deck, it's Guerrilla Tactics. Once again, we talked about one version. This version also runs backup plans, so we see some new cards. People were hesitant bringing Arachas Swarm deck to this tournament, relying on old lists mostly for monsters, but Guerrilla Tactics at least put a couple of them into the deck with backup plans. Shiro is there to punish units of the same size, can also flex on the numbers because of Guerrilla Tactics, because of the Dana buffs, so nothing is safe, ranging from 3 to potentially 15 points. You also have to guess which Shiro value is in your opponent's hand, because sometimes it just gets hand buffed and you are playing around the wrong sized Shiro. But other than that, it's very similar harmony, so we can move to the blood money most likely.
Yes, agreed. Very straightforward list, the harmony one as well. Long rounds is where it really thrives, and also something it wants is round control, to be able to determine when exactly the big amount of points is going to come down, and the long round with the mysteries and all of the harmony engines. So something worth noting is probably wants to take the blue coin because of that, but sort of flexible if it has to be. But yeah, Blood Money, we did talk about this one. Fairly similar, except we don't see a Calc-Steen here. So in terms of a mirror, perhaps Joe would want to see that Calc-Steen in this deck. However, other than that, we do have the Horson's Freak Show inclusion, adding another removal engine to the party, making it a little bit easier to really make sure you take care of those bounties in case your witch hunter executioners get dealt with, or your drill, for example. So yeah, a little bit more removal in this version.
And we also got the bans, so I can show it on screen now. We see that Syndicate got banned from both sides, so we are seeing cultists from Nilfgaard going at cultists from Skellige potentially. Afan versus Sigvald, so that's as well as the Squirtle mirror that is on the books, and what is left? Frost versus Pirates. Well, I hope they equipped themselves with warm clothes, but yeah, we know.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I mean, it's not the set matchups, but potential of Cultist versus Cultist would be fun.
Exactly. That was what I was going to say too. I like that you noticed that we actually have the ultimate cultist showdown. And this will prove our if you were to join a cult, should you go to Nilfgaard or should you go to Skellige? This is where you will find out.
Yeah.
potentially. So we'll see. Blood or, you know, the Eternal Eclipse.
So we're
Both
just
really
waiting.
good choices.
Yeah. Waiting for the game to start. And yeah, joining the cult is a life-changing decision. So you don't take it lightly. You probably consider, do you want to be a part of the big empire, or do you just want to hide on the isles and then raid unexpectedly? So let me see how the game is looking. I don't think it's started yet. Yeah, so just waiting for that to go live, and then we see Joe versus lerio. For those of you who just joined, this is the winners bracket final. So this game, best of 5, decides who goes to the mid-season tournament. And then we're casting the lower bracket final as well. So loser of this match goes against the lower bracket semi-finals losers winner. There we go. That's very understandable.
Very
Yeah.
true. Yeah, exactly. 2 spots, meaning will be reserved today for any of these top 4 players currently. So 2 of them will be able to go forward and will be playing in the mid-season tournament later this year. So it's going to be very exciting. The stakes are quite high here for the players, and they're probably thinking about what to queue. Of course, there is a slight delay in terms of they have already started playing, and we are sort of casting on a delay so that we can instead talk to you chat in real time. So past Lerio and past Joe would have been thinking, what am I going to queue right now? Do you have any thoughts? I believe is it Lerio going on blue coin here in this matchup?
Let me recheck. So yeah, lerio was on blue coin. Probably doesn't want to take his frost immediately out, but can go for, say, cultists. Let's recheck what's his stratagem there. For Ursine Ritual, it was tactical advantage, so that just goes for the points. No, like not looking for more consistency. There is like royal decree, and what more consistency do you even need when you have royal decree?
I think the good part for Lerio is that he has very flexible decks when it comes to coins. He's sort of going with the flow and can play whatever he wants. But I do think the most blue coin leaning deck here would be the Guerilla Tactics one. Just because of that round control need potentially. Other than that, everything is quite flexible, doesn't mind either blue or red. So Lerio could really go with whatever he feels like here. Honestly, while Joe, of course, has to respond from red coin, so we're pretty likely not going to see imprisonment cultists here, but rather something else, potentially Onslaught.
Yeah, Onslaught is a great deck for the red coin that you can take. Blood money is of course banned, otherwise that would have been up for grabs as well. And looking at the screen, we should be getting into the game pretty soon, so the mystery will be solved, although there is an in-game timer of 10 minutes, so depends on the readiness of the players and the time of invites going out. We might be still waiting for
we shall have to see. But yeah, it's going to be a showdown, definitely. Cultist, I hope the Cultist game would be like the finale of everything, deciding the whole series. That would be amazing. But hey, perhaps it will be a fast 3-0. Perhaps it will be a tight series. We're about to find out. I'm pretty excited for this one.
Okay, so I think we can switch the window. Yeah, there we go. The card is spinning, so the match is about to start.
Exactly.
Time. So Lerio on blue coin in this final versus Joe.
All right, we are loading into the game. Let's see, what are they going to be bringing here? Very close to finding out now.
1 second, and another one, and there we go. Guerrilla Tactics versus Cultist, actually.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Okay.
I did not expect to see Cultists, but the good thing about this deck and why can, I guess, go on red coin here, maybe Joe wanted to surprise Lerio a little bit here, and also he does kind of have 2 blue coin decks in the lineup right now that he potentially is going to be playing one of them on red coin anyway. But there is the Arcane Tome that can help you find your Necromancy if you don't find it, but this hand is looking pretty good. Has access to the Eternal Eclipse here. Could be quite scary for Harm to keep up, or at least play the round non-committally and still win. But goes for the round 1 Dana here. Lovely carryover accumulating for Lerio. Really, really nice to see.
Yeah, there is the Imprisonment Leader, of course. But we see Necromancy into Vilgefortz immediately. I think Vilgefortz was infused. And yeah, the Purify. That's not your job. You're supposed to be purifying the locked Dana. But yeah, we see that Joe doesn't go for that. Decides to just deal with the card that is doomed as well. So it cannot be purified. It just goes from the board. So just goes for a like more committal play, but also a better one, avoiding to like having to deal with Dana another time after she gets purified, and keeps a leader. Now he can just lock the Harmony Engines during the game. And we see that, yeah, the card starts spreading. One of the Nausicas is already in it.
Yeah, right. One of the Nauticas is in it, and Joe is transforming here a couple of more units before the scenario comes down. Currently, it's not accessible anymore because that Necromancy is gone, so it means Joe is going to have to bring the cult together a little bit later. For now, just focusing on getting all of those tags in and all of those infusions. And this is where removal becomes pretty important for Lerio. Taking care of those cultists before they can spread is very important, and the Simlas seems to be doing a very good job at this here. Big play coming out from Lerio, and holding on to that Saskia for now, saying that Simlas potentially takes it here.
But yeah, we see that this cult is not easy to stop. Necromancy just brings another infusion into the Joe's hand. Now a soldier joins an army, and Illusionist is in a cult. But we see that Harmony is just printing points at the moment. Simlas is of course a pretty great tempo play in round 3. But even in round 1, it provided, yeah, the control as you mentioned, so that Necromancy needed to be played.
Yeah, I think Lerio has a nice hand in terms of continuing to play but not having to commit too much. Also triggering a few harmonies here. Now the Saber coming down here for even bigger of a point gap, which is starting to look very difficult to reach. And there is the pass as well coming down from Joe. Harmony in a good spot here, being able to take the round, and now Lerio is sort of in charge of deciding how long the round is and when potentially the scenario comes into the picture. If Lerio can find it, that is Mysteries of Lochfane. Pretty important card for Lerio to find here.
Yes, there is no curse scroll for that, as we've seen the Saber. So yeah, consistency is a bit worse from those more reliable decks. But here we go. The skill check passed, and the mysteries are in place. So what is he deciding to do against the cultists? They are very scary in a long round, but if somehow they manage to develop even more tags in hand and then infuse everything, even in a short round, it will be potentially devastating, especially with combined with potential like Prophet lock in hand, locking you out of some harmony. But we see the Saskia lands, yeah.
Yeah. Seems like Lerio wants to split the rounds a little bit more, saying that the locks, now no Purifies for Lerio available anymore. The locks from Joe could be sort of threatening in a longer round and also wanting that scenario out, I'm sure, something that Lerio is trying to focus on right now.
This Arcane Tome shouldn't be doing much for Lerio, right? Because he used Call and backup plans. I don't believe there are any more specials, so that Arcane Tome couldn't be even bounced. So Cultists kinda wanted potentially to teleport a Cultist or two, but yeah, the Tome will be used only once for the specials, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But yeah, we see Lerio here playing the Chameleon, triggering the Guardian in hand, playing for carryover value, but also proccing some Harmony on the board. So the points are like... It's a healthy addition every turn so far for the Harmony. Doesn't skip a bit.
This is where Joe is saying, all right, I have enough set up here. I can play my scenario and I can trigger it. Of course, the gold cultists are the cards that will actually progress the scenario in this instance. So now that the deacons are down, more of the cultists can also come down. And soon on the board, the points will start accumulating for Joe. Has been a little bit slow in terms of points so far, but they are definitely coming soon. So Lerio takes a good advantage here of the situation and also procs more harmonies, puts more points of his own. I'm guessing Lerio wants to shorten this round quite a bit, but still wanting to have that mysteries for later and the big carryover on this dusk aspect.
Okay, we see Operator trying to spread cult into the Brokilon forests and beyond, but I don't think it's easy to persuade the Dryads to join. So let's see how much longer Lerio decides to play. The scenario has been triggered now, so all the cultists that are infused or were the cultists before are now just buffing themselves. And it's just snowballs so far, so fast and so hard that you might be 20-30 points ahead. But considering there is a leader charge with a Fawn, although did we get a Fawn infused?
We don't know because we can't actually see the deck, but if a Fawn is infused, that is really, really nice for Joe. So he's hoping for that. We don't actually know. I think one of these Deacon Order abilities should have been triggered, so I think we could expect Fawn to have the infusion on it.
And we see Prophet locking Lerio's hand, so all the cards losing their deploy abilities.
There is the big play. The snowball effect that you mentioned, Kung Fu, is happening here. Look at the cult. It really is taking off. I don't know what they are advertising over there, but everyone seems to believe in the message. And a lot of followers by now. So here, Lerio is shortening the round even more. Trading this bronze, of course, won't be triggering. Saskia bringing out another card. Thinning Lerio's deck very nicely here for going into round 3, but it does look like Lerio is going to end up losing a card here, but also bleeding out more of these cultist units is definitely nice, and not letting them have such a long round in round 3.
So yeah, I think we've seen another order of Deacon being used, and it didn't offer a Fun. And what Joe might be looking at here is just avoiding playing the soldiers to keep the bronze 1-point soldiers in deck, right? So the chameleons are also moving to Nilfgaard. The big chameleons, how many just dreams of chameleons this big? Nilfgaard can afford to grow theirs to 10 points, and yeah, the point gap is 20 points now. We see Arcane Tome landing into the teleportation. Teleportation usually is not the fast, not the tempo play, but here in Cultists, it just accidentally gives +3 to a bunch of units.
Oopsie, that was definitely an accident there. A happy accident, of course. No, very intentional there, of course. All of these units triggering, and Lerio played as he wanted, I think, shorten the round as much as possible. Joe, on the other hand, was able to not play those soldiers, like you said, meaning as long as you don't draw into them here in the mulligan phase, they will be coming onto your board without you actually having to play them. And ideally, they do have those cultist tags taking advantage of the infusions. But there we have one. Let's see, does the other one stay in the deck, or does it? Yeah, very nice draw here for Joe, not breaking any of these little soldiers.
Okay, so scenario versus cultist infusions. Lerio also has Shiro for the control, so if he catches up units being on the same power level, he can just trigger it, but Shiro is not very flexible, goes to like either 3, 6, 9 or 12. So let's see, and yeah, there is the
all of them have the infusions, which is really the dream situation here for Joe. And then we also see the Oratorias coming in here for even more cultist value. That is quickly racking up on Joe's side of the board. But let's see, you mentioned Shiru. Shiru can definitely be a bit of a game changer. However, those units do have to line up. And in terms of setup for the Shiru, it's very limited to Scoia'tael. But a couple of cards here looking to line up somewhat nicely.
Yeah, if the scenario wasn't triggered, then you can just drop Shiro as a 3-point unit, move the Artorius and burn 3 cultists. But maybe Lerio will play a long game, a long con. No, decides to trigger it now because it just gets out of hand and you are not catching them later. So that's 3 cultists gone. Only 2 infused ones on the board. Also one of the illusionists. Sorry?
A poison also there in Lerio's hand to take care of the tallest cultist in this instance, which is nothing Joe can do anything about. So yeah, the Shiru definitely helped Lerio quite a bit here, but can the cultists swarm enough in this round to be sort of uncontrollable?
I'm afraid one of the illusionists was only initiated into the cult in this round, so he doesn't have the infusion that allows him to grow. And there is still potential for, yeah, as you mentioned, poison in one. So how many might prevail with a lot of points here? Let's see what does illusionist do. Brings another cultist. There is no bronze to infuse at the moment, so initiates and just staying on the board, not doing much.
Lerio taking that leader charge there as well to get rid of the cultist. Could be a teleportation target. The soldiers could be teleportation targets, and also does not play into more bronzes for any infusions. Just all right, there's a dwarf there to proc some harmonies, as well as the dryads, but dryad in hand as well.
Yeah, so if he missed the poison, it would have been a nice find. Here he cannot utilize the third poison, is an odd one, so maybe just decides to trigger it now. Is he potentially fishing for like killing a teleportation target? I'm not sure the cultists can close the gap, but maybe I'm doing the math wrong here. So let's see, a couple of turns left. What does the illusionist bring? There is still this initiate in the graveyard for you to pick.
Yes, initiate. Other than that, not very tall units here. Going for the initiate. Couple of points racking up. Dryad left as well as a leader charge, putting the Willow onto the melee row and utilizing some of that tag value that is on the board of Scoia'tael currently.
Yeah. So those infusions from initiates cannot really kill the bronzes now, especially if Lerio decides to play around it. You mentioned bringing the treant onto the front row, but you can also move the dryad out of the cultist triggering range. If she was double infused, that would be a threat. But now she survives. We get some triggers, and it's actually 4 points. So yeah, nice. It's mad. The Afan grew to 19. But
Yeah.
lerio takes game number 1. If there is some moderator in chat that would update the command, that would be nice. But now we are waiting for the next game. It is a best of 5 series, so one of the players needs to win 3 games to progress to mid-season tournament. Let's see what Lerio does on red coin and what Joe decides.
Yep.
Cultists on the red coin almost worked, so let's see what he
Yeah.
decides to take.
Not super conventional, but again, Joe is working with multiple blue coins here and hence trying to pull that cultist deck through on red coin. Pretty interesting. A very close game. It was fun seeing 2 of these very long round enjoying decks go head to head against each other. Really nicely, yeah, I think worked out for Squirtle. Could have been a little bit scary if you missed some of the key cards, but shows that the strategy of shortening the rounds ended up working out just enough for Lerio to take it there. So, meaning Squirtle is through. So Lerio cannot play that, but we are moving on to red coin for Lerio, blue coin here for Joe. So let's see if we see Cultist again from blue coin. And it looks like we are going. It's the Cultist versus Cultist battle.
Yeah.
What do you think?
There we go. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
Let's see if Skellige Cultists can put up a fight to Nilfgaard. What do we see in terms of hands? Of course, there is a Curse Scroll, but scenario was already in Joe's hand. So he's just fishing for deacons. And potentially like one of the golds. Has a Neuromancy as well. So that's nice. Lerio finds some bronzes to start the round with. A ship and a priest combo from like probably giving people good memories from 2019.
They were seeing a lot of play back then, Clay Priest and Player Ship, and that was what Skellige used to be very, very good at. So still back to the Skellige roots here. But Lerio has not located either Sigvald or Knut yet, which is a combo that he definitely wants to see later on. Maybe not necessary in round 1. Also, this Melusine in round 1 is a very nice find, potentially able to grow some of that carryover later. And if it gets removed, you can just resurrect it in other rounds. So nice find to have access to that Melusine. But let's see, is there enough engine value here to actually keep up with whatever shenanigans the cultists will be doing very soon? Again, straightforward plan here for Joe, trying to set up as many of these tags as possible before triggering the chapter of the scenario, giving all the cultists the infusion. Melusine coming down here, starting to grow herself and therefore also the carryover. And removing this engine very nicely here as well with the combination of the skulls from Harold.
Sadly, it doesn't snipe triple pink into the Deacon, so Deacon can be teleported and continue his work of spreading the cult. Now Dandelion joined. I wonder if Geralt will follow soon as well, because Dandelion is the best cultist weapon to spread his cult through the songs. But
that is very true. He can convince a lot of people on the way. So maybe Geralt is somewhere in the future of The Witcher actually joins the Eternal Eclipse. Who knows?
Yeah, so we see Melusine popping those skulls, and now she needs more food, so ship most likely follows. Melusine working with Harald on growth of that Drakkar, so nice combo there for them too.
Yeah. Nice combo, and I don't believe there is much to do here when it comes to Melusine. I mean, you can Wilberforce it, but you kind of have to leave that Wilberforce open for later in a round where she gets resurrected again. She's about to get pretty chunky here, coming down so early from Lerio. It's nice to see Melusine not being instantly stopped. And she's working with the cultists of Skellige, of course, here to grow herself up to be mighty. Cultists, on the other hand, deacons are doing exactly what they are supposed to be doing, adding those infusions to Joe's deck. And soon the points are going to start accumulating quite fast there on Joe's side of the board. Now, Priest nice little cultist that could come down here from lerio. Yep, next to Melusine, of course, making her rain order potentially being reapplied once it's used. If cultist is next to her, she gets that one refreshed. So some rain potentially coming down here from Skellige soon.
Yeah, and we see that scenario is being played on turn 2, but gets triggered only now, halfway through the round. So yeah, the deacons finished their job. Everyone who wanted to join, joined, and now they try to just accumulate a maximum amount of points. He has, Joe has Dandelion into something potentially, like double triggering the infusions, so that's a lot of points. Don't let the point gap mislead you guys.
Yep. But also nice food here for Melusine. She keeps doing her thing as well, together with the priest, working on refreshing the power of this veteran as well. No rain getting refreshed, but that's fine because the points are coming from elsewhere. And here comes exactly the snowball that you mentioned. Big points from cultists here. Of course, Joe ideally wants to take charge of the round and is hoping to win it here. So we might see this round go fairly deep, which might be a little bit of a problem for Lerio's Sigdrifa right card that is there in the hand. Not really playable just yet.
Yeah, is it a tie on the board at the moment? It might be, but Lerio, I doubt, wants to give Cultists any form of round control here, so most likely seeing him dropping a bronze and clicking the Herald and just continuing playing here. Especially being on red coin, just testing the grounds, how far your opponent wants to go is always the preference of red coin. So, actually, potentially consider skilling one of the infused units, yeah.
Yep, so. Nice Shamutna sword value there. Board shrinking quite significantly for Joe. A couple of units are gone right there. And continues playing the Prophet here. Of course, locking the hand of Lerio.
Yeah, Martyrum doesn't care about that lock. You probably would have wanted the Berserker to flip. But yeah, at the moment has a play. Also can drop the lock to bronze, so it doesn't matter much. But yeah, here we see the Martyrum dropping onto the ship, taking advantage of that armor. But Cultists never stop.
Dandelion drawing into a fawn, not a playable card, of course. You want that to come down way later. Mage Infiltrator could be played here, but it looks like Vilgefortz is here to definitely seal the deal. No death blows available. This does put the point gap up, but as we did mention, Melusine will come back later, and then there will be no Vilgefortz to take her down in a later round.
Yeah, this roll from Vilgefortz, taking out the Bright, is of course kind of painful for Lerio. Would have preferred potentially another ship or some bronze. Maybe even, although probably not, access to Knut from the graveyard. You'd rather not, but yeah, good pull for Joe here from Vilgefortz. Cannot complain. And yeah, that seals the deal. He gets round 1. Now he needs to mulligan off on and figure out how is he dealing with Sigvald. Is he scared, or is it something that Cultists just can handle?
Ooh, I would be scared for the combo of Knut and Sigvald working together because, yeah, realistically, can't really do much about it. You could sacrifice a lock, but there is indeed the Grimace and the Peller from Lerio, so there is some purified potential as well. So Joe does not have great control over the combination. Decree and Necromancy, of course, means that Lerio does have access to both. So I do think Joe here.
There is also this that we didn't cover. You love those illusionists into the veterans.
Yeah.
that one play, that one matchup, when the illusionist is just insane. Like creating chameleons and all that is fine to re-trigger against Scoia'tael, but this is just pure point slam that is very hard to counter.
Yeah, for sure. Mata here, what is she pulling from the deck currently? Once she does come down, I believe we have not seen Vigo yet, so should be next on the list.
That might have been out. I'm not particularly sure. And yeah, since we are having the cast live, there is no observer. But whatever works in terms of having a delay so that people playing actually feel in that everyone has the same conditions and there is no problems with the cast and availability of like opportunity for sniping. So that's nice to have. Let's see what is happening. The warrior.
This Melusine is looking quite big, and also clicking the rain there, hoping to trigger the cultist in the middle, yet he dodges these rain. Like, he has an umbrella for sure, and he did not get hit there. It would have been really nice for Lerio to snipe that little engine.
Yeah, the cult leader probably sent a list of things to bring to the initiation, and umbrella was there, so yeah, protected. And now also nice infusion. That mage infiltrator at the moment is getting killed, and the dead wish is going to be triggered. So let's see what Lerio decides to do. We see him use Gremist for Purify.
Yeah.
And not going for saving that Melusine at the moment. He has Martyrdom to potentially play here. He's 14 points ahead, but don't you want a huge Melusine for the next round?
Exactly. It seems like that is the really fast pass coming down there from Joe, seeing that Purify and not going on Melusine. Really, it would be lovely for Joe here if Lerio would just take the pass, because that means there is not a threat of 20-something point Melusine by now, I think.
I believe Lerio loves the Melusine too much.
I would kind of want her as well. How can you say no to a 20-point Melusine going to the graveyard?
There we go. Yeah. Saved.
There we go. She's not doomed anymore, and she can come back to cause some ruckus in round 3 as well for Lerio. So seems worth it there to take the martyrdom, really. All right.
Okay, so well, there is another illusionist playing for 12 points for 4 provisions. Pretty nice. He's not in the cult. Other cards are infused. And Oneiromancy is most likely bringing another cultist as well. So, and we see Sigvald. And Oneiromancy and Knut comes naturally into the hand as well. So don't need to tutor for that.
Yeah, leaves potentially even the Oneiromancy open for something like Spores that just went back into the deck there for Lerio. So nice to find the Knut there. Of course, there was a decree as well to tutor another unit here. Fukusia, of course, being a priority. Yeah. Pretty interesting. I feel like Lerio has everything he needs here, and technically so should Joe. But is the round long enough for the cultist value really to pop off here?
Yeah, this Gremist, although kind of opened the route for imprisonment leader value to be of like more value. As well, because now the lock can actually do something against Sigvald and Knut, and you are not afraid of them being insta-purified from the Gremist. So let's see.
Peller, though, that I believe has
Oh.
not been used yet. So that is something that is even tutorable. Fukusia now is out, bringing out the 24-point Melsine currently.
Yeah.
She is a chunker. Very nice to see a 24-point Melsine survive for this long and not going anywhere, not getting squirreled, nothing like that. The cultists are going to have to try their hardest to keep up here, but they have a lot of points that we currently cannot see, but they are about to come on Joe's side of the board. Of course, Afon and his company as well will be coming out once that soldier hits the board.
Yeah, you just kind of want to get the lock value, but you need the engines, so there is a dilemma for Joe here of like, what is he doing with it? And we see that.
All right.
Okay, Cultist gets washed away with the rain, and there is nothing really for imprisonment to lock in this board state, but you have to use it sooner than later, and we see that Melusine is eating one leader charge, and the second one goes probably on Melusine as well, because you don't want to lock the bronzes. That's something that you potentially are infusing later on.
Yep. All right. This means that Sigvald and Knut are chilling for now. But maybe Joe is saying also that the round is not long enough for them to get the ultimate value. So potentially it is safe to go ahead and play that leader out.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice to have the armor as well here, considering Svalblood is about to hit the board as well. So the armors are not a bad thing for Joe at all.
Yes, and he also will be infusing those 1-2 point units, which actually makes them switch sides with after the infusion, so it's a lot of points coming to Joe's side of the board.
All right.
Okay, we
Taking
see.
down a decent amount of value there on, or damage on the Melusine, destroying one of these tags on the cultist there to deny the order ability.
Yeah, there is no restore, sadly. Not everything goes into your hand when the round is rather short. You want all the components, you want the Melusine, you want the Sigvald Knut, but Knut is not speaking to his pal Sigvald at the moment, interacts with Melusine more. Taking care of those initiates, although this time around 4 damage is nice enough to have. And we have another one of initiates dealt with.
All right, so now we see what Mata actually will bring here. Spores, nice little reset there for Lerio, and Necromancy here, accessible to Joe, making him play another cultist tag here, which is definitely going to rack up in terms of points. A lot. Oh, look how those 1 power soldiers grew very fast to become 12 power. That is quite something.
Well, Melusine is at the moment 12 power as well.
Yeah, fair.
So as big as Melusine, or you can just take a sum of their points and equal it more or less to Melusine's value. So and all that for like...
your own Melusine as well with the spores there. But here comes Svalblood, hitting some armor here on the first trigger. Knut and Sigvald working out together finally. Teamwork. There is another ping coming down from Svalblood. Lots happening here. Melusine placing a little bit of extra rain value, taking down Mata. Really nice hit there for Lerio, as Mata, of course, had the infusion. Now, here is the illusionist.
Bringing like extra 16 points onto the board.
Yep.
Giving an infusion to the next card. It is all working together for the cultists. Yeah, there is a reset. There is still points hidden in the Sigvald and Knut.
Yep. 1 leader charge left here as well to be used for Lerio. Something worth noting.
Bear Abomination is
big points coming down.
Okay, 14 points on Sigvald. He needs to hit the one. And that's it.
Last
we've
infusion card
seen-
coming down here.
We've seen
There it is.
12-point illusionist before, but it also triggers all the cultists, and cultists from Nilfgaard win the game, making it 1-1 right in the series. So blue
Wow.
coin, cultists from Nilfgaard prevail over the Sigvald Knut combo, because that didn't really work out as it might have in a long round, but other priorities were set by Lerio.
Round control there was quite nice for Joe to have, securing that round one and kind of deciding the round length. And Lerio just did not have enough time there for Sigvald and Knut to do enough. But if the round was longer, it could have been kind of scary, and more engines could have also been removed from Joe. Really tight race now, 1-1. Of course, the coins will be swapped for the next game. So we have Lerio this time going on blue coin, yes, and Joe responding with red. Now Lerio's sort of blue coin deck is has been played, the Guerilla tactics. Could we see potential Ursine Ritual? Maybe securing round one could be very good for that deck. Then again, deciding when to play the Sigvald Knut combo could potentially be very nice. White Frost is an option, can go from blue as well for Lerio. So is deciding between those two. And meanwhile, Joe, of course, has to respond now with red coin. So most likely not going to be Guerilla tactics for Joe, but rather Onslaught.
Yeah, Pirates Onslaught is something you'd take without much thinking, most likely. So let's see if that... We didn't expect him to bring Cultists on red coin before, so you might surprise us once again. But no, we see the Onslaught. And Lerio goes for the White Frost on blue. How is the hand looking?
All right, finding the foglets right off the bat. They are racking up to be quite tall. Definitely nice. Could fall victim to Curse of Corruption or something like Teshamutna Sword from Joe. So I has to be a little bit careful with that. But nice find regardless to have those. An Aristocrat there as well is nice for Lerio. That an L Aristocrat, of course, can be stratagemmed and also gets good value here in a long round.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of nice bronzes to have for round one. Also found the giant toad. The toad to eat the ship potentially. And we see, no hesitation, deals with the aristocrat. Seems to be like a cheap bronze, but when it increases the applied frost duration, it's scary because it then gets carried over for the next round from Tirnalia, so you'd want that out. And yeah, we see the toad dealing with the entire ship like it's nothing.
Yeah, quick plays here, both players knowing exactly what to do and what they don't want to see from the other player. I mean, I think for Joe, it'll be sort of important here to not let that Winter Queen potentially go through once it hits the board. Knickers to help a little bit here, catching up to the tempo. But these Naglfar crew members here are doing some nice work for Lerio as well, ticking and bringing continuous engine value as long as frost is applied to the opposite row. Naglfar's crews, let's call it.
So double foglet is being preserved for now. You of course want them hitting the board when there is at least some protection from frost, so that they buff themselves a bit. It's also, after seeing COC out, Curse of Corruption being played on Aristocrat, it might make Lerio reconsider when he plays those, because there is not infinite toll punish access from the pirates. They still have the compass and they grow the damage on boat and later on Bjorn as well, that can be combined with the leader, and Tesnamutna, as you mentioned as well, can control them. So dropping them at 4 power or 5 power doesn't seem to be the way. You'd want them to grow to like 9, 10 to ask for a sword, to ask for like leader charges. So at the moment we don't see them hitting the board. Lerio considers if he wants to. No, yeah, goes for the leader. Does he go for an Echo or Foglet here? Goes for a Foglet.
Foglet does come down, as well as the Winter Queen, now that we have Frost on both rows. Two things for Joe to deal with here, definitely. Let's see. Does have the ship in hand there in round 1, can't be nice, but a little bit difficult to actually trigger this damage onto the very boosted units that Lerio has currently working out there. Yeah, Teshri Munazord not accessible here either. Trying to make the melee row potentially stack. We can see the placement here for Commander's Horn. So definitely something that Joe is aiming for doing in this round. Let's see if Lerio can potentially hit something there on the melee row with the Frost. Foglight, of course, really nice that it's growing here.
Yes, and well, he has an option of protecting Winter Queen with the Navigator, but he needed more Frost on the board because otherwise he would be buffing it only by 1, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see how the Frost is split on the rows at the moment, but yeah, now if it's not killed and we don't see a leader charge, you can consider playing the Navigator and buffing your Winter Queen, otherwise she can be easily sniped with the leader charge.
Yep, Navigator, quite just scary for Provision Bronze for Wild Hunt after it got reworked. A really nice way of utilizing some of that extra Frost, or just a lot of Frost application. And meanwhile, on Joe's side of the board, really nice setup again here for the Commander's Horn. Quite a few points coming down there. Next turn, nothing Lerio can really do there to deny it, unless he were to use a leader charge, which is probably staying in his arsenal for a little bit longer.
Okay, so Lerio, goes for the play, buffs the Winter Queen here, continues to get profit from his Frost, although now something needs to be put onto the ranged row. Well, he has a leader charge.
Yeah.
He has Gales and Naglfar for access to like gold, so exactly what Hunt unit he is looking for from Gales.
I think Gales is looking for Tiernalia most of the time really nicely. He would be able to boost the Gales right off the bat from the Tiernalia, but maybe Naglfar is something worth aiming for here for Lerio. Foglet a little bit late now to the parties, looking to join in another round, of course. So getting a little bit more committal here, but so is Joe's hand as well. Can barely keep up with the cards currently available. But Foglet does come out here, just doesn't want to commit the Naglfar yet. Maybe a little bit too many options on there for the Naglfar to be secure to play, and the Galscan probably going to look for that Tiernalia card. So Foglet does actually come out here. Now it is in the range of removal if Joe is willing to spend leader charges here, but does take the pass, says happy to see both Foglets gone.
Yeah.
And we're moving on to round number 2, where Lerio does have round control, which is nice, can set up carryover and can decide exactly how long the round 3 is going to be. So that is very, very useful.
Okay,
for Lerio to be able to do.
Gets an Echo back, gets a Bruiser that can be an answer to the red ship. So we've seen Joe having the Bjorn and Terror of the Sea in hand, but if I'm not mistaken, Terror came to the hand from Unicorns and only managed to create 1 armor on it, the 1 extra armor. So yeah, it's kind of hard to get the Bloodthirst against the Wild Frost that gets bonuses from engines, bonuses from leader's passive, and then the buffs from all the cards and frosts. So
yeah, absolutely. Dorgary as well, nothing much to lock here. Caranthier, nice pull for Lerio to have in hand, deciding exactly when the time comes for the Golden Child to really shine. Of course, aiming for the max frost application that Lerio can get, but takes the pass here, does not set up carryover. Willing to take it to a long round, does not try to push out the Golden Nekker either.
Goes for 8-card round. Still has 1 leader charge, has Echo, so some frosting coming from those, and now we see him finding the Red Riders as well, which is also helpful, potentially teleporting the Navigator, although Navigators most likely there is another one potentially coming, right? So
Yes.
those are usually dealt with because of the value they provide. What does this Wrath represent? Not much to hit, so yeah, gets back into the deck.
Yeah, pulls a Wild Hunt Rider, which is maybe not ideal considering Oberon is probably the card that wants to bring those out. But Oberon is potentially going for a Navigator or something else that just brings out even more value. So maybe not a bad find after all.
Not a favorite situation, most likely, for the Frost to have opponent have an interactive play on turn 1, since you cannot Frost it immediately, you cannot hit it. But yeah, we see the Gales into Tirnalia here for some
nice proactivity.
Proactive play is still being present, so you're not wasting your Frost on empty board, for example.
Yeah. Eridan looking to come down there from the Naglfar as well. And yep, thinning left to do here for Joe, but the Golden Nekker, of course, is nicely set up for that and is not bricked either. Hernkadu being the only artifact still in the deck, so it will be nice for Joe to pull that one when the time comes.
This Caranthier should have a very intensive program of growth hormones, otherwise he's in danger of like staying small till the end of the game. But yeah, hopefully he takes a hit of Artgate here and starts growing fast.
Yes, the order, of course, containing the Red Riders there for the Tirnalia, also a way of applying even more frost. Yeah, this is looking like not much is going to stick on the board when you're Joe. A lot of frost ticking, and Eridan is also able to come out, increasing the damage that the frost will deal, which is also very, very intimidating here. Bjorn, on the other hand, coming in for the clash. And nothing on Lerio's board yet, but tall units, like you said, Caranthier could still grow and come in a bit later.
Yeah, you'd expect Skellige to just remove everything from the board, but Wild Frost also shows that you'd need some work to get your ships sticking. Probably would have helped if some armor was put on top of those ships and pirates, but at the moment we see that wasn't the case. So are we... Yeah,
this is a bit of a game of cat and mouse, both players sort of trying to deny points on the board that were actually interactable with. So they are bound to come down though, and Lerio here is a little bit favored just because he does have that last say. Those are points that will be on the board very last that Joe is not able to interact with in any way. A lot of frost happening here, Joe having to decide which card is getting sacrificed to the frost.
Decides to drop the ship, doesn't click the order, doesn't make sense. The damage from frost is basically the damage he would have taken on it. Well, it might make some sense, but yeah, Joe decides to just keep the ship on the board for some interactivity. Also doesn't buff it, so the vial is being kept here. Maybe considering that there is a Wrath.
Yep, Wrath does exist and is still accessible to Lerio. Navigator is starting to look pretty nice with all that frost stacking up, but no units to actually hit, but you could convert that into Navigator value. So let's see what comes down here from Oberon. It is indeed the Navigator now. And
this Navigator gets bounced as well, so the Oberon is looking like a real king now at 14 power.
Very nice. He sure is. Now the big units are starting to come down. Teshimuna Sword, not bad at all. Does quite a bit of damage there on the Oberon, maybe dethroning him a little bit.
Yeah.
At least humbling him a little bit here. Another ship coming down here, not much it can do, no real damage to be done. Just a card that will get sucked up into the frost and hence going on the melee row, not to give both rows of frost more value. Teshimuna does hit the Oberon there. Heron could do coming in, and Bear Witcher. Yep, he got completely deleted. He got dethroned there.
Yeah.
No more Oberon.
There is a nice opening for that bruiser now to become a king. So Lerio still has one leader charge, can move something onto the back row to profit from the frost. The compass is active. Dorregaray is not doing much at the moment for Joe. He still has 2 leader charges. He decided not to use them last turn.
Lerio moving that Bear Witcher, denying any heal value there from the Heron could do, and again making sure both of those frost rows are consistently bringing in some value.
So don't really want to play Carantia. He's still growing. Since he was very, very small at the beginning of round, brings the riders out, only 2 of them. They lost their 3rd brother to Oberon, focusing on other things, and also through the course of them breaking. And now we see that Lerio has Naglfar. Eredin, you mentioned, was still an option. What else is there?
Eredin and Wrath, I believe. Appearing Phantom, we didn't see either, so that could be a gold coming down from the Naglfar still. But yeah, I mean, Navigator did a great job there. Potentially Lerio is not missing that 3rd rider because of the value of the Navigator. Was really nice there from Oberon. Look, coming down here from Joe, not doing too much, of course. No engines anymore to lock here as the Naglfar's crew. They did their work shift in round number 1. Here is Eredin, though, maximizing frost damage. Caranthir, Golden Child in the hand, growing a little bit from that, and having the finisher. Compass is going to be big. What is it actually going to get hit on here? But very hard to beat this Golden Child in Lerio's hand currently.
Yeah, Caranthir just grew to like almost 20 points by the end of the round, and Skellige compass options are probably limited to about 20 points as well, so I don't think Joe can find, but he's looking. Maybe there is something that he considers. Sadly, can be. I know that every time there is a can be possibility, Twitch chat just goes can be, but yeah, it cannot be can be here, sadly.
Sadly, no.
Doesn't
coming
work
down
like that.
instead. Slight lead, but look at this Caranthir Golden Child, 19 points, coming down at 20, getting boosted from the frost and taking it there for Lerio. 2-1 currently. Very, very tight series so far. Lerio needs to get one more game to be able to claim his ticket to the big mid-season tournament. And Joe, on the other hand, has to get 2 wins in, so still a tight race.
Yes, so he has to beat Lerio Skellige, Ursine Ritual, right? With his choice of the pirates. And Guerilla Tactics was right. So
yes,
he got his cultist through. So that's his 2 choices. Joe goes on blue coin now. Probably.
Very likely that we see Squirtle deck here, and Yeah, I think a lot will come down to how well Joe can actually draw with the Harmony deck, because Lerio is a little bit, ideally fighting for round control, but it will be harder to get with the Cultist deck from Red Coin unless you can combo nice Melcy and maybe even bring out your Sigvold and Canute, because there is not much actually that the Squirtle deck can do about that. So could be that we see a pretty intense fight for round one control here from both players.
So players just resetting between the games, waiting, and in case of Joe, he also has the choice to make which deck he's taking. Lerio has only one deck to choose from, so shouldn't be a challenging option for him. So
No, might have to reset your, take a breather and reset your head into game mode. That is definitely reasonable. Taking your time here, one game off from getting to or qualifying for the tournament that you're aiming for here. So yeah, important to take your time in these moments.
Okay, so we can look at the deck for a second. This is the Joe's Pirate that we just seen in action, and Guerilla Tactics with poisons, with backup plan that goes against Lerio's Ursine Ritual that runs answer to those poisons in Gremist, so... Interesting.
Yes,
haven't really seen the Sigvold Knut combo on ladder much recently, so I only played a couple of games with this so similar deck. Not sure how it goes against the current Harmony.
Harmony has a very hard time dealing with it in general. Obviously, you have some veil going on there in terms of protecting something like Melusine, taller units. No locks really available either, but tar removal's an option. And Shiru, of course, that you have to be very mindful of. So Shiru could potentially be a nice way of removing something. Simlas as well, playing Simlas into the backup plan. Maybe you can create some nice chip damage there to take care of something big. There is no defender for Lerio protecting Sigvold or Knut. But yeah, I think in terms of round control, Squirtle would be very happy to have it, and then being able to potentially push out some of these components. But with SK, there is always the danger of them getting resurrected later. So yeah, hard to say.
Was there anything in terms of Guerilla Tactics locks?
No lock here.
No lock in this list, so no Kiaran and no Moran. So Gremist has one job to protect something from getting poisoned, and then potentially, as we've seen it all in action already, just removing Doomed from the Melusine.
Yes, and very important here for Joe to actually draw well in round one, because otherwise I think Ursine Ritual is very capable of turning the situation around and being very threatening with those engines coming down, especially if you can't keep up with your own. So really, this could be anyone's game. It's going to be a really, really intense battle, I think, for the win on this one. And we'll be curious to see which deck actually prevails here as we move into the game.
Okay, so Guerilla Tactics versus Ursine Ritual. We see Saskia, we see Scenario, and we see access to Dana immediately, as well as Simlas. Pretty nice finds from Joe. But Lerio also cannot really complain. Sigvold, Melusine, tutors are all present, plus some playable bronzes, so both players should be quite happy.
Yeah, round one Dana could be a bit of a threat, but Lerio does have access to Tesha Mutna Sword, which is included in this deck, so a little bit of control in case Joe would decide to go for that round one Dana from call. But yeah, the battle begins. Saskia probably coming out here to thin the deck and pulls out a Harmony engine to begin with.
A bit of an unfortunate pull, but well, the Harmony list kind of plays a few of those. So yeah, -1 poison for Joe here, but he has enough.
Saskia could be in trouble here, so I think it's in Joe's best interest to potentially press the Saber as early as possible. Will lerio take another ping here just to try and snipe the 50-50 on the Saskia with another leader charge?
That's a lot.
Would be very nice. Alright, it's sniped. It's gone.
Gone, yeah.
That is not a good position for Skellige to be in currently. lerio has to be very happy not having to waste any more leader charges than that to actually take her down.
Yeah, going 2 out of 2 is a pretty goddamn score, so should be happy. And well, Joe had an opportunity to click the Saber, as you mentioned, decided that his Saskia is better at dodging, and he bet wrong here, sadly.
Unfortunately for Joe, yes. And lerio, on the other hand, is quite happy again with that Melusine find in round 1. She can start working out, eating some, cultist offerings and growing to be resurrected later as well. Here is the Saber now, proccing the 2 Harmony engines on the board, as Saskia won't be bringing any more of those out. Some poisons accessible to Joe as well.
Okay, so what is lerio's plan here? Is he going all in with the gold cultists? Or is he using his tutors for something like less valuable? Can also, start with the ship. Play a Martyrdom, but that's rather slow.
Yeah, he makes the decision now of going for it and fighting for the round control, or I guess giving it to Skellige, because it will get kind of difficult to catch up if you are not willing to play the gold cultists, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Okay, goes for the ship. On the other hand, we see that Joe has all the poisons in his hand, so unless you're playing Scenario or Simlas, you're kind of forced to start poisoning those somewhat suboptimal units. But that takes away from like Martyrdom targeting the ship as well. Maybe makes it once again awkward for lerio. Let's see where we go from here. Peller, of course, happy to help.
Yeah.
Sadly not
the value here.
Sadly nobody invited him into the Skellige cult, so he is just a human.
He's working on his own ritual there on the side and doing the Peller things. Meanwhile, Chameleon proccing and poisons coming down. I think Joe is quite happy to take it with those poisons if that secures the round, but after that Dryad, the last Dryad from hand is out, things are starting to look very, very committal. So ideally, for Joe, lerio would decide, not worth fighting for anymore. Point gap is maybe getting a little bit too big. Another poison on the board, has access to Grimace if he wants to take it. But, big moment for lerio here, deciding whether to push forward or not. But yeah, Joe is going to definitely have to commit something he doesn't want to if lerio keeps pushing, which it seems like lerio is indeed doing. Going for the Swallblood in round 1, just wanting to play Swallblood when there are as many units as possible on the board. And big plays coming down here, but a nice board state to wipe out here with Swallblood.
Clears a couple of tags from the board. So the poison connects, but okay. We see that no leader charges are being used here, and now lerio has this edge, can still play on Aeromancy for something non-committal. Martyrdom is there as well. And sometimes you can go for like your golds. Since you're Skellige, you can just bring some of them back. He has one ticket booked for Melusine, of course, but between Sigvald, Knut, and Swollblot, you can kind of decide later on what's your strategy for the next round or two. Okay, goes for the Knut here.
Knut's nice engine removal here. Doesn't potentially use more leader charges here. Doesn't worry about Knut going down just yet. But the point gap is very nice here for Lerio. Does not have to go all in just yet. And as we can see from Joe now, things got too committal, and Joe actually takes the loss on even here. Very, very, very scary. Skellige does have round control now and can resurrect the Melusine, can resurrect the Knut, which Squirtle will have a hard time dealing with, especially now that the poisons are down.
I also remember that there is actually a sound in games. I added a little bit of that, but nobody complained. Oh, I missed that, so oops.
Gwent music, I think, fits very well.
Yeah, it might be a bit too quiet, but there are some noises now, not only us talking over the game. Okay, so how many triggers for scenario are of course present, and we see Lerio doesn't hesitate, doesn't want that card. He knows what Harmony is capable of, so
yeah.
goes.
And Joe says, all right, I know what you want. I'm going to give it to you, because if he holds on to that Mysteries of Lochfane a little bit too long, that can backfire, as it will become, or it's a little bit greedy and then potentially not even proccable later in round 3, or just not great value in a short round. So here it is, coming down from Joe.
Okay, Martrom starting to build up on the Sigvald. No poisons anymore. We've seen 4 Dryads, so there is still a possibility of triggering the poison in one turn if Joe goes for the 3 and plus creates a poison Dryad from Mysteries.
Yep.
From Conversions, so whatever was the name. So let's see. We've seen Lerio being good at sniping, but no, doesn't go for that.
All right.
And we see.
Yeah, doesn't find a poison here, so good for Joe that he didn't try to risk it for the biscuit and go for the poison, rather just playing out some Harmony engine value with the Parasol on the board instead. Finds only Dryads, but that is fine. Nice little engine with the Matron going on there. Lerio now can decide how deep into this round he wants to go and which cards exactly he still wants to see. It looks like Joe's trying to hold on to that Simlas and Shiru potentially as well.
We see that Lerio wants to just go as tall as possible on one unit at the moment, not really feeding for a tall punish. I don't think there is a Brechen in this list. You need to make room for Simlas with backup plans.
Yep.
So yeah, some changes were made to the list from a couple of months ago.
Seeing Drifa coming down here, resurrecting. Yep, there is the Knut coming here to work with Sigvald. That is easy, racking up in value. Yeah. It's been a long time since we've seen this in Gwent, so it's very exciting, I think, to see Sigvald and Knut back at it again.
And look at that Percival being like buffed and tall, and a little bit of armor, and it matters not to this insane combo. Although, yeah, Lerio now considers if he wants to double pink his Knut, most likely not. Can consider just, yeah, getting points from Sigvald, wholesome plus 22 addition.
Yep, that is a big 53-point Sigvald. And Shiru coming down here, moving the Knut, and also, of course, triggers here the Chameleon, and yep, still a couple of points short here, so Lerio can decide that, all right, I've seen enough.
you can buff Shiru a little bit, but reaching 53 is a tall order here. So goes for a smaller Knut to compete with. Lerio continues playing like not the greatest tempo, but still plays for 8 points. That Berserker.
Yep. All right, let's see here. Call of the Forest has a couple of options. There is Dana, but really, if Dana does come out or Lake Guardian, there is not much left. So here is the Simlas instead.
This is not ideal in terms of damage, right?
Yes. Having to hit the Berserker there is not great, triggering it, but also then not leaving Lerio any leader pings to put into to something that doesn't actually damage the board. But yeah, point gap has been reached here though with that Simlas coming down.
Lerio doesn't really risk anything playing his on Neuromancer. There is no squirrel to eat it. So if he wants just to trade for the last card, I think he's capable of finding a card. It's also, yeah, this play from Simlas showcased the power of like extra tax added to elf cards in the elf and dwarf cards in the recent patch 2-3 months ago, where elves got warriors and soldier tags. So yeah, you're creating those elves, you're getting +2 damage from each backup plan, and at the same time, yeah, you're getting the buffs from this scenario, which is nice addition there. We see Simlas landing as a 5 and both elves playing for like extra couple of points.
And also now Joe has to use the last tutor here just to, you know, get out some card that it won't be ideal, a bronze card that you don't want to see in round 3. But that means there might not be a Dana in round 3. And that is the card that Joe really, really needs if, you know, there are going to be any points on the board for Joe. Yeah.
Doesn't
Just
have
also gone this round, and we know that for Lerio, Fukusia can resurrect the big Melusine potentially from the graveyard for nice short round points. What else is left here for Lerio?
Finds Dana, but she doesn't really have too many targets to buff. Yeah, but three units. You're probably happy with what you found, considering how it gone. Lerio has Oneiromancy that gives him access to whatever he's missing, but yeah, there is a consideration for the mulligans. Ship goes. Berserker is not brilliant, but does the job.
Something to put your leader charges into. It is all right. And for Joe, yeah, this hand is as good as it gets, I think, in terms of what was left in the deck there.
So is Melusine enough? This Gremist is, well, not doing much, right?
Yep, Gremist is not doing much, but the Fukusia into the Melusine, I think the Melusine was at like 17 points, so she is quite a beast here. She's been eating well, and now she's ready to, you know, demonstrate her powers, as the point gap suddenly is quite scary.
We see a poison, so Gremist has something to do. There is a reason to click it. There we go. So
all right, there he is,
saving the Melusine from I don't know what. And countering Dana while being poisoned. Yeah, that works. And there's a couple of leader charges, but not too many categories available for that Weeping Willow to take advantage of. And since Lerio still had his leader, we see that he takes it with a 5-point lead and makes it 3 wins. So we are done with the winners bracket final. Congratulations to Lerio. And Joe gets another chance now in lower bracket final.
Exactly. It's not over for Joe yet. He can still make it, as we will find out who Joe will be playing against here. All right. It looks like. Right.
Okay. Do we get the information?
Yep. We should have it. As Joe will be playing against Nishi Nekobane.
Okay. So
Call them Nishi.
yeah, let's go with the Nishi.
Yes, and that means RV50. RVS3 is not in the run for the golden ticket anymore. It's between Nishi and Joe. And of course, huge congratulations to Lerio for making it and qualifying to the mid-season tournament. That was very nicely played, very smooth series for Lerio there.